Hey there, I'm Thomas, also known as Hand Shadow on Reddit, and I just started up the Game Projects subreddit on Reddit. I like to keep my videos short and sweet so your eyes don't glaze over. I may make longer videos in the future, but for right now I'm trying to keep them below 10 minutes each. If you're watching this, you may have seen some of the other posts on there, but I'll quickly go over that information again. You can see I only have 2 posts on here right now. Um, we're going to go ahead and develop the game in Unity. You can download it for free on unity3d.com. Once you have, please check out their tutorials, as I don't want to go over all of the Unity's features when they've already done that for me. I'm going to be using Microsoft Visual Studio 2013, and it's free on Microsoft's site. Unity comes with MonoDevelop, which is fine, but I prefer Visual Studio over it. They have a package that you can download on the, I believe it's on either Microsoft site or it's in their store, the asset store. But there are rumors that MonoDevelop will be replaced in the future, but that has not happened yet. Our project's going to be in C#. So go ahead and pause the video and install Unity if you wish to follow along. This is the default layout of Unity when you first open it. I've already imported the project, so there are more files than a new project. I don't like this layout, so let's go ahead and just open up the window menu and then go to layouts and then click on 2x3, and that'll reorganize it. I have a pretty large screen, and it's large enough to accommodate the console panel. So let's go ahead and just open that up real quick. It floats on top, but you can drag the tab and put it on the right. I'll just put it over here. I do that so I can quickly see stuff that I'm debugging. Next, I'm going to collapse the project panel into one tree view. I just prefer this one column layout because it's easy to see stuff. Now it looks much better. This is the organization I'm going to be using for the videos. If you reorganize this way, I believe you'll be able to follow along a little faster. If you don't, that's fine. As you can see in the project panel, I keep a typed ship and I organize all my files into directories. At certain points during the development, I'll go on a reorganization spree and make sure that the assets and scripts are all organized into logical directories. I like naming conventions to use the common words at the beginning, numbers for the middle so they order, and then a little bit of a general description. Here I'll show you in my prefabs UI directory how I've done that. So like say it's the common name for this would be the UI root 2D screen, and then I put in a number so it sorts it, and then I put in a little description of what that object is. Okay, so the project's slightly fleshed out. Let's quickly go over what this project is. At the moment, we don't have a design document, and I'll go over how to write a design document for the game later on. This particular game will be a Texas Hold'em game, solitaire game with an action element to it. It's not very pretty right now due to my not being a creative artist. I'm more of a technical artist, but I know a few tricks to improve the look and feel of the user interface, and we'll do that later on. I'm just going to go over the project real quick. So open up the scenes directory and double click the main games scene, and I've already done that. I mean, just do it again, and it'll put in these objects over here, these game objects. The JS UI controller right here is the one we're looking for as far as the game objects go. Click on that game object and look over in the inspector, and you'll notice that it comes up with 3 values here, 2 lists of values and then a third value. The top one is the UI screens. It's got a list of all the UI screens that we'll use, and then pop-ups are basically user interface objects that pop up on top of the screen, and then the start screen, which happens to be with the value of logo screen right now. If you hold down Alt on the UI screens, it'll open up all of the subcategories in the tree. If you were not to do that, if you just did it regularly, it would look like this. But holding down Alt and clicking on it will expand all these entries. And the logo screen is right here, and the link to the game object is right here for that logo screen, which will highlight it if you click it in the project directory or the project panel. If you click on that, you'll notice it has a little bit of information here. This is an NGUI script called UI root. And we're going to go ahead and just drag it out into the scene, which puts it out here. And you'll notice that it's a 2D interface. So you can click on the 2D button right here, which will flatten it down. You can zoom in with your mouse wheel here. And in your game view, let's go ahead and change the aspect ratio to 16:10 portrait. Our game's gonna be played on phones in portrait mode, so, and we'll get to that later on. And you'll notice that it resized the texture here in the scene view to be the correct size, so it doesn't stretch out these pixels. There we go. This logo is pretty basic. It only has 2 images, and you can click here and it'll expand your prefab here. This logo screen is very basic. It only has 2 images, which is some text and the green felt texture I made by taking a picture of a small area of my poker table. I made a curved text logo in Inkscape and GIMP, which are also free software packages. The screen is a prefab and it is dynamically created with the UI controller here. NGUI elements are in the prefabs tree, which includes a script to keep the UI in the correct pixel density with the camera in the tree, which you can see here with these values that I put in. I put in 1280 by 768 here, and it's constrained to fit off that height. Underneath that is the camera, and this has more values of just various things like what order the camera will render. If you have 3D, it could render over it, could render underneath it as a background, and so forth. The anchor basically holds the elements into place. Then a panel underneath that is for rendering options, which allows for layering, and those use a depth system, and we'll go into that more later on. And then the elements underneath that are what you want to render on the screen. We'll probably reorganize this to be a little bit better because the way that things render, they have what's called draw calls, and you want to reduce your draw calls in a video game as much as possible. It'd be easier to just take this panel and put it above the anchor and then have all your anchors underneath that later on, and that'll reduce your draw calls. But we're not going to do that right now. So that's pretty much it for how elements are organized. In this case, I have just 2 textures on the screen, but it can get very complicated. We can have tons of elements here doing all sorts of stuff. All the screens call the UI controller to switch to another screen. So if you're familiar with Unity, you'll know that since the UI controller game object has direct links, which are these right here, to each one of these prefabs, that they will load into memory when the game loads. And that will allow switching between screens, provided they do not load a lot of custom prefabs inside them or perform lengthy tasks such as networking. And it should be seamless and quick. You won't notice flickers between screens changing out. So let's go ahead and delete the Screen 01 logo from the scene. Not the one in the project over here, or that'll delete the object forever. Well, you could get the project from Get Again, but just don't delete these right here. If you modified that screen and at that point it wouldn't save the changes, you would have to actually apply them, so that's not something you have to worry about. Now click on the play button and the game will run. The logo will show up and you'll notice that a clone of the logo is here, and after a certain point in time it will switch over to the menu. If you stop it and run it again, if you were to click on it, it would automatically come over here as well. So you could tap on your phone to just quickly get to the main screen. Oh, if you're wondering why my screen is red, this is to let me know that I'm in play mode, so I don't lose work by changing values on objects while running. You lose changes to objects in the scene if you modify them. Usually there are exceptions. To get that tint, you can come over here to edit, and there's preferences, colors, and then play mode tint, and I've just got a really light red tint to everything. That way you can actually read the text while you're in run mode. You'd lose changes if you were to modify anything in there. So if you were to come over here and say change the start screen to start screen, when you exit out of the game, it'll flip back to the logo screen, so you would lose those changes. Anyway, so if you click in here and click on the play button, there's nothing really here yet to show off. I usually put in a button to go back to the main menu in here, but I haven't done that yet. Each screen is dynamically instantiated and displayed using the UI controller. We can add more prefabs in the UI controller to this list here and just go hog wild. We'd be able to put as much UI screens in there as we want to, as far as, you know, expanding our UI however much we want. And that's the basis of the game so far. I just wanted to go over it really fast so I didn't bore you. Not much technical in this video except to introduce you to a few things in the project and some organization. Check out the Trello board to see where the project is. And we've got a Trello board here, and it's got like all sorts of neat little things that need to be done in the game. And it'll look much different in the future, of course, based off of wherever we are in the project and what point you're watching this video. You can private message me on Reddit at HanseShadow, which is HANSESHADOW, if you want to join in and get the project code from Git. I'll just add you into the Git repository. I already have quite a bit of code in the project that I didn't show in this video. You can tell the project is at a very basic stage, so you'll get to see the project grow to completion if you join in now. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you later.